Now, would it really be an ADHD event without us running a couple minutes behind? And I think we should start it with a dance party. Anyone else? Thoughts? Okay, let's do it. Yeah. Optimum dopamine level reached. All right, I think I'm good.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, my dog.
Everyone else think that was fun?
My dog didn't really think so, but
David wasn't feeling the.
David was napping, and I woke him up, and now he's pouting underneath the table.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave. Can you just, before we even do introductions of you, could we just prioritize, because we do that really well,
Yes.
and you just let the entire crowd know the name of your pets?
Yes, I will, and I'm not ashamed of them. David is my dog, and Susan is my cat.
Absolutely perfect.
Right. Susan came first, and so I like human names for animals. And then David is from Schitt's Creek. So, yeah.
That's absolutely phenomenal.
They're amazing. I love them.
Well, I just want to say how exciting it is to have dreams become reality, and the fact that you're here and I'm here and the whole crew is here right now.
It's exciting.
So, I would love to know, where is everybody else checking in from? Because we have I think I know who's farthest away, but I want to know where everybody is from. Okay, so Dorsey's checking in from Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Dorsey. Rico's from Rocio. Nice. Dallas.
Comment.
Isabel's from France. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Athens, Georgia. Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Wow, this is so cool.
We have people from literally all over the world.
Wow.
Santiago, Chile. Javi, great to see you. Thanks for being here. This is great.
I'm in Pittsburgh, and it feels like I imagine Chile feels like. It is at least 100 degrees here. It's awful.
So, Justin is from the land, which translation for those of you who aren't from here means Cleveland, Ohio. And I think Nancy is going to be checking in from Nairobi, Kenya. And she is on the virtual team for Ryanair Coaching, does incredible work. And we were getting ready for the presentation today. And I was like, I just checked on Google. And according to Google, Cleveland, Ohio was warmer than Kenya. And Kenya is like right by the equator, but it's their winter time. So there you have it. 78 degrees, a pretty chilly winter for them. Well, I just could not be more excited. I'm going to kick it over here to get the slides going for a sec. And I'm so proud to say I practiced this, by the way.
Unlike me, I went live that one time and we did not practice.
Right, but that's okay. We practiced this time. Welcome, everybody. And we even have cool animations this time. We're taking this up a whole nother level. And the good news is, Javi says it's a winter where he is in Chile as well. I want to say congratulations to all of you. You might be thinking, well, congratulations for what? Well, the hardest part's over. You actually made it. We are going to have 3 outstanding speakers today, and one of them still isn't here. So you've already done better than one of our speakers of arriving to the event on time. But we understand because this is ADHD. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But that's okay because I want to go over what today is about, what we're going to be working to achieve, and when you leave here, what you're going to know. So this is about the ADHD diagnosis and beyond, because some of you who are here, you may already have an ADHD diagnosis. Others of you are thinking, and I saw Dawn Addington, her description is, I think I have ADHD. So Dawn, you're in the right place. And other people, maybe you just got diagnosed. I know there was somebody from TikTok, I hope she makes it here today, that she had just gotten diagnosed literally, I think 2 days ago. Oh, wow. And I said, this is perfect timing. You need to be on this webinar. And she's just learning what is it like to officially be ADHD and having a lot of different emotions. So we're going to be talking a lot about this today. In fact, here's our agenda. So when you arrived early, you may have had the chance to chat for a few minutes with some of the ADHDers that are here with us today. And what I want you to really realize throughout this whole thing, both with this event and beyond it, is that you're not alone. You're never alone with your ADHD. For anyone who follows me on TikTok, you know that the reason I got into all of this, and even the reason why this webinar is happening, is because of the fact that I know how rough it is.
Okay, Joy, I'm going to leave the phone call now because they can hear you, okay?
Yeah, Tim, we can hear you as well. Thank you. Hey, Joy, hit the little, or maybe just we'll keep quiet, but we're good now. You're in. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're just doing an intro. I'm walking through the agenda. So we have started, and now everybody is here. We're so excited. Glad you're here, Joy, as well. And let me keep clicking. Here we go. So I'm doing the overview and intros, and then Caroline, who I'm going to introduce here in just a minute, will be talking about getting an ADHD diagnosis. How do you do it? What's involved in it? What you can do if you're interested in getting a diagnosis, and what's all involved in that. Then don't worry. I know it's going to be a lot for all of us to handle, so I made sure to include a breathing, stretching, dancing bio break for us. And then for the second hour, after that break, we'll do part 2, which is going to be Joy, who's going to be talking about ADHD medication and a lot of really important information there. And then part 3 will be me, where I talk about just the daily management of ADHD and what we can sometimes struggle with. And then the last, hopefully 15 or more minutes, and we'll stay on a little bit longer if needed, but I want to make sure that everyone who's here who has questions can get those questions answered. So before we even get to Caroline, I want to just do a quick intro. Caroline and I have been very close friends and have gotten closer recently, but we went to college together. And some of you may have been on the live that I hosted on TikTok with Caroline, which was a true ADHD event. But Caroline, maybe you can just do a quick intro, and then we'll allow Joy to do an intro right before you kick your part off.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I'm Caroline Degnan. Ryan and I went to Dayton together. It was the best experience of, I think, both of our lives. One of the best experiences. And after Dayton, I moved back. I'm from Pittsburgh originally, and I live here now currently. And I have my master's in clinical mental health counseling from Waynesburg University. I've been practicing. I've been in the mental health field for 10 plus years at this point. I've taught at universities, and now I've been in private practice for about 8 years now. My specialty is perinatal postpartum, but I see patients from like the youngest I have right now is 16 and the oldest I have is 60, and men, women, every type of diagnosis. And as I always kind of find the coincidences that happen, I have just had a really big influx of ADHD patients, especially women. I'll talk about that in my little talk, actually, as to why that's happening, especially this year. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're here. And Joy, I know that we're all working out our, technical challenges, and it's okay. We can see you. We can't see you clearly yet, but I think it's a really good indicator of our talk today, because we're going to help to bring a lot of things into focus for the people that are here.
Way to go, Ryan.
Thank you. So maybe, Joy, even though we'll work on your camera, but tell us a little bit about you for the audience who is anxiously awaiting.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joy Sadlak, and I live in the Cleveland area. I am currently working in professional practice doing psychiatric practitioner. We call it behavioral health is the new term for it. I got my postmaster's in psychiatric nurse practitioner a few years ago, and I am also a certified nurse midwife. So have been present with a lot of births in the Cleveland area. And how do I know Ryan?
Well, I'll jump in on that story because it's so incredible how this all came to pass. So when my wife Andrea and I had our second child, Lila, our daughter, we were blessed to have Joy as the lactation specialist that was coming in to check on Andrea and how she was feeding Lila and everything. We just had such a great experience, had a great connection, and I just figured, well, that's someone who I'll probably never see again, but she was really nice. Then after that, I went, my nurse practitioner who prescribed my medication retired, and they said, your new nurse practitioner is Joy Sedlock. And I was like, wait, this must be a different Joy Sedlock. And sure enough, I walk into my appointment, and there's Joy, and I was like, can we just hug? So we hug it out, and I told her all about what was happening on TikTok and the journey I have been on, and she said, I want to be involved. And I said, I think this was happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. So that pretty much was the inspiration behind this presentation, because Caroline has been with me since the beginning, giving me encouragement and giving me ideas and facts. And Joy's been helping me. I always go to her with questions about medication. So I realized, you know what? Why not just bring both of these talented women together with me onto a presentation where we can help all of you. I have goosebumps right now. I can't make that up. So with that, Caroline, I can kick it over to you, and I will actually be your slide guy.
Perfect.
So just let me know whenever you want me to move it along.
Should I have a code word? I'll just yell at you. How about
you can just say next or whatever you want to say.
Okay. Well, okay. So when we were kind of having our meeting about this beforehand, one of us, I'm not sure who, we were just saying what's your ADHD like, or what's your funniest moment, or what, like
how would you describe it or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And as I was thinking about this, I had actually already thought, and I actually printed this out because I wrote this, I don't know, it was a journal entry or whatever, but I wrote this months and months and months ago about how I describe my ADHD brain, and actually how my mom has always described my ADHD brain. And that is that it is Candyland. Welcome, Candyland. And everybody else's brain, well, not everyone else, neurotypical brains are more likely described as chutes and ladders. And so why I love that my brain is like Candyland is because there is no straight path, at all. It's so many colors. There's so many ebbs. There's so many flows. I will never, ever do anything in my life the easy way. I don't even know how to do that. And also my goal, even when I was a kid playing Candyland, was never to win. I actually never wanted the game to end. I always just wanted to like keep going because one, you're playing with other people. And I always want to be with people. And two, I just wanted to get the characters. I wanted to go to all of the fun places and meet all of those people. And even like the kind of like scary, like licorice man, I loved him. I was like, I want to go see him. I feel like he needs some friends or whatever. And so like, that's how my ADHD brain works in the best way, is like, I always see the people first before the problem. Mm-hmm. And I don't even see there as being a problem. And so that's just kind of how I visualize my brain and how it works. And then also, I guess a funny thing about my ADHD brain that just happened about 10 minutes ago. I meant to bring my fidget toys back to home with me. Some of them, they're all at my office, but I forgot. And so instead of doing this the whole time.
Thank you for not doing that, by the way.
You're welcome. I went and all I could find was this like wine stopper that I'm just going to be holding and fidgeting with the entire time.
Absolutely perfect.
You have to just make do. But yeah. Okay. So
I added this in. Surprise.
Okay. Thanks. That's good. So you didn't get to play Candyland. You should. It's a really good game. But what are your expectations, or what were your expectations before and after your diagnosis? Anyone, even like the expectations of the process or what your diagnosis was, I would expect that your expectations were not what turned out to be.
Right, exactly. And just to jump in a little bit, I want this experience for everyone who's here to be an interactive one. At the end, we're gonna give all of you the chance to ask questions. But throughout the entire presentation, I want you to feel free to utilize the comment section, because when each of us is when Caroline's presenting, for example, Joy and I can answer the questions, and same way. Each time everybody presents, other people can reply. But I thought it'd be good to have a group question just to kind of get the conversation sparked. And I want all of you to be able to help each other as well inside of the comments. So that's why I put that in there. I just forgot to warn Caroline about it because she actually came up with the question. But
yeah, well, and just kind of like, so I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 6. Actually, my mom was a huge advocate for me, and she just recognized that something wasn't not right, but I was struggling a lot. I was subsequently diagnosed with dyslexia, dyscalculia, which is your numbers can get mixed. That's been a fun one in terms of doing my own accounting. And I have an auditory processing disorder. So that diagnostic process when I was 6, to be honest, I don't really remember. It was fun. I would expect. But I then had to be re-diagnosed as an adult to be able to get medication. And that was one of the worst days of my life, to be honest. It was, and we'll talk about how the emotions that can happen within the diagnosis day and then afterwards, because I left that office literally feeling like the stupidest person ever. I was like, I will never be successful. Clearly, I can't do this. I can't even remember sentences. How am I ever going to be a professional? And I've actually heard that that's a lot of people's experiences. So let me see if I can.
No, I'm here. I was just turning on a light.
Oh, okay. So Ryan, just checking. Am I supposed to be reading this and answering them?
No.
Okay, cool.
These are just questions that we'll come back to. It's just to get them going. So, in fact, don't even look at the comments.
Thank you, because I can't do that.
No.
Okay, so like I just said, I'm going to be explaining this both from a clinician's perspective. So what I look for, how I diagnose, but also speaking as someone who has also been assessed as an adult, I'm going to kind of be speaking from both sides of that, if that makes sense. Okay. a lot of people will say, like, why do I have to get assessed? Like, especially my patients, they're like, why can't the prescribers just accept your diagnosis? And they can to an extent, and they do to an extent, and I'll kind of get into more detail about that. But the assessment is so, so important because it's telling us kind of where somebody is on the ADHD spectrum, what we're dealing with, if there's also comorbidities like learning disabilities, depression, anxiety, lots of different stuff. So it gives us a better frame of reference in terms of your treatment. What are we going to be working on most? What's the most, how is ADHD impacting your life the most in an uncomfortable way? And let's address that first, so then we can do a lot of the other stuff. Like I just said, a number of conditions are intertwined with ADHD. So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, which comes first. But to me, it's all there. So we're going to address all of it. And then continuing. So I'm just kind of like pushing these all together. So we're doing lots of assessments in the process. So I actually just had a patient come in on Wednesday, and I get to see all of her. I get to see all of my patients' assessments anyways. And so there was, I think, 8 total assessments that were done during her clinical assessment that she just got back. And so it's not just one. I'll explain that there's lots of different ones that are done. Like from my point of view as an LPC, I have one that is kind of like my gold standard that I use. But lots of clinicians will, depending on the psychologist or whoever you're going to get the assessment, they're going to decide what assessments are done. It is often required by prescribers. I find that that's the most true with psychiatrists. I think, and Joy, like I like always send my people to nurse practitioners mostly, because I think that nurse practitioners can and do invest more time in patients. And I'm not slighting psychiatrists. It's just what I see. And so nurse practitioners are, and also they're, I think, a lot more open to working with other clinicians cohesively than psychiatrists are. And again, nothing about psychiatrists. They get paid a lot of money for 15 minutes of time, and they try to get a lot of people in. So, and they do, and they do good work. So we'll stop there. Continuing. Okay, and it's really important in terms of your genealogy, honestly, with your medical history. So we know that ADHD is genetic. We just know it. I look at my grandpa, my dad, me, my brother, he kind of has a different type of brain, but he doesn't have it. My cousins do. If your child has been diagnosed, there is a higher likelihood that you may have it. And that's what we're finding a lot too, is that parents are getting their kids diagnosed and then they're like, oh, wait, do I have it? And hence the influx.
That sounds really familiar.
Right. How's my buddy Ethan doing?
Yeah, he's doing fine.
I love it. Then it also, so in terms of kiddos, we see this the most with access to accommodations, but for college students, you can get accommodations at school. So double the test time, you can have your exams read to you. There's so many different accommodations, but you cannot access any of those accommodations without a formal diagnosis at all. Like, the schools are incredibly strict about that. And I understand that. It's really necessary. Professionally, I actually just did paperwork for a person so that he's 35, has accommodations at work. And they have to accommodate. It's the Americans with Disability Act. And so it's great, but you need a formal diagnosis for that. Provides answers and explanations for potentially years of struggle and hardship. This is what I deal with most. This is the emotional part of it. I have patients who receive diagnoses and feel so much relief. They are really excited. They're like, okay, now I have a plan. Now I can get going. Then I have people who are angry. They are like, why didn't I get diagnosed? All of this stuff. So I'll talk about that at the end, because that's kind of like my bread and butter with all of this, is that there is so much emotion involved with a diagnosis. The process to, the process of, and the process after. So when you're having an emotional response, that's expected. And it also gives you the freedom and fun of embracing your weird. I love my ADHD. I think all of us do. It makes me, I think, who I am in so many ways. So yeah.
Who doesn't love Candyland?
I love it. It's so much fun. I just bought that for my nephews. Okay, so who can actually diagnose you?
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Yeah, I can't do that fast. Okay, so when you are searching for a clinical diagnosis, where you will be sent most is a clinical psychologist. I have next to it a type D level assessment. Let me just explain about assessments. So there's A through D. D requires the most training, and that is why so few people can do them, because they require that much training, and you have to be certified in that assessment to be able to give it. I have one C level assessment training that I can do, but it's because I went to a weekend long training on how to give this assessment. I myself, as a master's level clinician, like kind of automatically have a B level assessment ability. And then A level assessments are what you guys can do with the online assessments. Those are they're easy. They sometimes are scored digitally for you. And so just the different levels equate to their accuracy level, the type of scoring that's done, and then what you can do with those assessments after. So like schools, for example, they will not accept anything less than a D level assessment. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Physicians. So physicians, they will do more of they will do the physical side of it. So, I will say I know the least about this side of the assessment, but they are making sure that there is no traumatic brain injuries. They're making sure, and like Joy's going to probably talk so much more about this, so I'm going to like refer a lot of that to her. But they are going to be doing that physical side of it, because ADHD is neurological. Physicians and nurse practitioners, psychiatrists, and whatnot. Clinical social workers, and licensed professional counselors. I will just say, a lot of people ask, like, what's the difference between clinical social workers? There are differences, very much so. When you get to a private practice level, we're doing very, very similar things. So, yeah.
And this is a question that I'm so glad that Caroline's covering this, because it's something that I get asked a lot on TikTok. So for everyone who's in the audience to know, I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email with resources, and it's going to include this list, just so that you have an idea of where you can go if you are one of the folks who has not gotten an assessment yet.
Right.
All right, next slide. Here we go.
Okay, how do you find these? Yes, so referrals from your doctor are going to be, they will give them to you. Sometimes they don't know them personally, but they will have a list of referrals for you. Search the directory. So Psychology Today is a great resource. It can be overwhelming because a lot of people have there's profiles, and so you have to go through them. But that's a really good resource. Recommendations are I think the best. There are so many great communities on like Facebook and even TikTok. Like if you can find people in your area and be like, where did you go? That's where you're going to find the best ones. That's how I have all of my referrals, is people that have actually gone to these people. And I'm like, were they good? Great. I'm going to send people to you. Did you like them? No, I'm not sending them. So, and then back of your insurance card, call your insurance company. They will give you a list. Slides or.
I know I was seeing if I could get my remote to work, but it's being kind of weird. So I'm just going to click.
Let's not get all fancy here. Okay, so here's the roadblocks that we're going to run into just in the beginning, even trying to get an appointment. And the big one is wait lists, and that is thanks to COVID. Because of COVID, all clinicians, I have a 3-month wait list at this point, all because of COVID. And it's not simply because I'm not just talking about ADHD. I'm talking about every single diagnosis is everyone is struggling. And so getting an appointment is difficult. There's been such an influx in people seeking diagnoses because, one, people are actually like aware of themselves more being at home, and they're like, okay. When there is trauma or anxiety or stress, our ADHD symptoms become exacerbated. And so people are really recognizing like, oh, this is some stuff I'm dealing with. People are with their kids more. And if your kid, like I just said, like if your kids display ADHD symptoms or have a diagnosis, there is a higher likelihood that you will have ADHD. We have more time to just analyze ourselves and think about stuff. And so people are really recognizing that there might be an issue. Yes, next slide. Sorry, I know I'm going quickly. I just want to make sure I can get.
No, I appreciate that you are.
So even though there is this wait list, I'm going to tell you like what to do with it. Put your name on the list. Even if they come back and they're like, we have an appointment. It's August today. The first appointment is going to be in January. Get your name on the list. I don't care. Put it on there. Sometimes people will call you and be like, hey, we had a cancellation in a month. Can you come in? Say yes. Take it. Rearrange your schedule. I don't care. Do it. Get your name on multiple lists if possible. They don't care. Like, put your name on all the lists. And you don't have to wait, though, to start therapy. So just because you don't have a clinical assessment done, that doesn't mean that you can't start doing work. That doesn't mean that you can't come see a therapist or a life coach to start working on stuff. I mean, I'll be very honest. Diagnosis is probably my least favorite thing that I have to do as a clinician, because I just don't think that it doesn't define us. And so if somebody comes in and they're like, I hear my ADHD symptoms, or I think I have ADHD. Okay, well, let's work with it. Those letters of like, I have ADHD doesn't mean that the symptoms aren't there. Like, okay, so let's just go with it. So you can start therapy. You can start to do the work without the assessment. Okay.
Whoops. I forget how many bullets are there. There we go.
Sorry. These are just the ones. Some other options are homeopathic options. So because a lot of prescribers won't see you without an assessment, there are homeopathic options. I'm not going to go into those too much just because I'm not as well informed. But even just different diets, exercise, there's lots of different stuff like that. And then
I'm going to be talking about that.
Yes. Oh my God, we're on the same page. I love it. Connect with other ADHD adults. The support networks are amazing. There are a lot of, I know this is like common in communities, but the mom groups around here are like killing it. Like they are supporting each other left and right in the best way, which I'm so happy about, because there are some funny mom groups. But there's one mom group in particular that they just love me, and they
All of them come to see
all
you?
come to me, and I love them. They're just amazing. What is a clinical assessment anyways? And so I want to go into this so that anyone who has not been diagnosed yet and who is going into the assessment can know what to expect to an extent. So first and foremost, the DSM-5 for ADHD diagnosis. Ryan, can you go to the next slide? We're going to come back to this one, but.
Totally.
Oh, wait, where is it? Go one more. There should have been a chart somewhere.
You know what? Maybe I can have Nancy, if she's on here, maybe she can send it in. But I think
okay.
you emailed it to me, right?
It was in the slides that I sent you. It's okay. Just go back to the first one. Sorry.
Okay.
So basically that chart was just kind of saying what the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for ADHD is. And for adults, you have to meet 2 of the criteria in different areas of your life, whether it be personal, professional, psychosocial, very clinical wordage. And so if you meet 2 of those, then typically like that's when an MD will refer you to somebody else to get the diagnosis. So that's how I diagnose. So if I recognize that somebody has at least 2 of these symptoms, then there we go. That's the diagnosis. I also have other tests that I have, but it actually is that simple. If I recognize that there's 2 of them, then you clinically have the diagnosis, technically. Clinical interviews. So this is the first part of the assessment when you are with I'm just going to generalize it and say like the psychologist. And so this is when they're going to talk to you. Why do you think you have ADHD? Just tell them about what's going on. You're going to talk about your family of origin. You're going to talk about your living arrangements, your self-image, activities that you do for fun, health, current moods, problems at work, problems at school. This is a really, really, really important part of the assessment because the assessor is not only hearing what you're saying, but they are hearing your tone of voice. They are hearing how quickly you're speaking. They are paying attention to your body language. They're paying attention to your ability to stay on track with the questions prompted. And again, I'm telling you all this not so that you can prepare for this or be like, oh, they're paying attention to this and this and this. No, I'm not going to get you in, but it's so much more than just your answer that is being assessed, if that makes sense. So the norm rating scales. These are the assessment tools that as people that are not in the field, you basically can't have access to. So as a BC level clinician, I can buy these assessments. Joy can buy these assessments, and we literally have to buy. I spent $400 the other day on assessment tools. It's ridiculous, but they're really important. And these are the tools that are fill out this this form. So there's the checklists. There's the I use a depression rating scale that's yes or no answers. Then there's the anxiety ones. But for the ADHD ones, they are you can see these are just a list of them. The Connors is my go-to golden standard one. And I think a lot of people agree with that. And so if you're ever asked, I don't think you would be, but if you were ever asked, what type of assessment do you want? The Connors is one that's really great. The next slide. So these tests also include getting information from other people in your life. So a partner, your parents, roommates, boyfriends, girlfriends. So basically people who are around you a lot. so that they have they can say like, oh yeah, like she never, it sounds dumb, but like, oh, I never shut the cupboard doors, or there's one room that's just a disaster in our house and like she like won't clean it or something. I don't know, just an example. But they like to get other people's viewpoint of somebody. Perspective. Thank you. I lost the word for a second. So that it can be a more full and accurate assessment. Sometimes sometimes it's a requirement. Sometimes it's not. Depends on the assessor. Psychoeducational testing. Sometimes you'll have an IQ test, and that, really pisses people off because they're like, why do I have to have an IQ test? It doesn't matter. Like, my ADHD doesn't affect my IQ, and that's absolutely correct. However, if we see that there is an inconsistency with IQ, then it might actually not be ADHD. And so we have to do all these things actually to rule out other things, not just to prove that you have ADHD.
That's a good point. I never really thought of it before.
Yeah. Performance-based measures. These are very interesting in terms of ADHD specifically, because and these are the ones that make us feel really bad about ourselves, because the performance-based measures are horrible for people with ADHD because of our executive functioning issues. Our brains are like repelled by these type of tests. So remember a camel, a cow, President Lincoln, a cup, and in 15 minutes. Okay, like, no, because we're not interested in it. We don't care. If things that we care and love and like become passionate about, we're going to be doing really well. I don't care about a puzzle. I don't care about these type of things right there. And so then my brain wasn't going to do them. And so oftentimes you're not going to do well on those during the evaluation, but that's okay. That is actually validating that you may have ADHD. And so it doesn't feel good, but it just is how our brains work. So, okay, next. Okay, so these are some things that you can do beforehand. And these will help you get a really full diagnosis. So if you have, and I know like as adults, we're like, do you keep any like old report cards? If you don't have them, don't. Like, it's not a big deal. Please don't reach out to your like high school and be like, can I have my transcripts? If you have them, great. If not, don't go to great lengths to get them. But sometimes it does help. If you were diagnosed as a kid or have any type of learning, like an IEP of any kind, bring that. Any type of accommodations, anything that you have like that. Any other type of psychological testing that you've ever had done, bring that. Go ahead. If you've ever had any issues in your workplace, like needing to have like a performance review or getting, honestly, like any, I call it like uncomfortable, but like uncomfy feedback from people, like be ready to talk about that. Any and all, they will give you a lot of paperwork to fill out beforehand. Fill it out beforehand so that you're not anxious while you're there and doing it, because you will forget things. And then just kind of like write down beforehand, like what's your experience been like? Why are you there? What concerns do you have? What problems have you run into your life that you're like, is this part of the ADHD? Like, write it down. It will help you to be a little less anxious beforehand. There it is. Found it. So this will, if we want to look at this more, I can send this out. But this is the clinical DSM-5 checklist that we look at for inattentive and then the hyperactive. You can have ADHD inattentive and then ADHD hyperactive, or you can have ADHD with both of them presenting. So
sorry, I decided to make the thing a little bit ADHD too.
I know I'm really getting dizzy right now.
Sorry. Michael's like hard to read. I don't know if that's because
I know it's very small. It's just that it was one of the most simple ones I could find. I can send out more information on that. So
yeah, and maybe again, all of you who are here, even those of you who are just arriving, totally fine, because you are going to get a link to the recording of this event. So don't feel bad if you missed anything. And what we'll do is, like, I'm envisioning we could take this thing and kind of chop it in half where that line is, and even make it like easier to read or whatever. So no big deal. We'll get this to you.
Okay. Ryan, how much time do I have left?
You are several minutes over, but that's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to tell you about it. I want to let you do your thing.
Okay, let me just keep going. We'll skip that. You'll get a full page assessment emailed to you, and then you'll have a follow-up appointment where they will go over everything with you. Take as much time as you want in that. Like, ask them everything. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go over this quickly, and I wish I would have tagged myself better. But like I said, once you get the diagnosis, they're going to experience a lot of stuff. So anger, relief, disgust, sadness, fear, joy, excitement. And that's what I am, or like an ADHD life coach, therapist, like that's what we're here to work with you on. And it's completely normal to have huge emotions after that. And so it's a big deal. And so really being kind to yourself with it and processing all of it.
Yeah, and I just did a TikTok about this yesterday, and I said receiving an ADHD diagnosis is sort of like this jumbled mess of relief and, what did I say? Relief and resentment, or relief and regret. There it is. Because It's like, oh man, it feels so good to know what that was. That explains it. That's like the relief part. But the regret is like, if I only would have known about this earlier, maybe my whole life could have been different. And you have this a very legitimate grieving process of, wow, I wish I could have done it differently. But that's where you can work with your therapist, like Caroline, to realize you can't change the past. So how can you move forward?
Right. And especially with women, I find that there's a lot of anger that they were looked over, that there's just a lot of stigma, I think, especially for women, of being like flighty and like ditzy and all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not really. I'm just kind of going to go through these, and this is kind of just more my belief system, but a diagnosis does not change who you are. You are who you are just as a person in general. And it's like, okay, now you have this on your medical record, but like, you're still the person that you are. A diagnosis does not define you. And that's really important. And I really stress this with my patients. I'm like, yeah, you have ADHD, but you still have to be like, that's not an excuse, honestly. Like, you have to let's work with this. It's not kind of like this get out of jail free card, which I don't think most people use it as, but some people, like, they do. A diagnosis is not a predictor of your future success or failures. I wish that someone really would have stressed that with me more. I had a really, really poor self-image. Basically, I didn't think I was smart, but surprise, I am. And it's me finding what I loved and was passionate about to really embrace that. A diagnosis does not just make everything better. It can sometimes make things more difficult before things get better, but that is life. Like I said, I can't use it as an excuse, and most people don't. But if I ever kind of get the feeling that somebody is, I call people out pretty quickly, and it's just like, nope, we're not doing that. A diagnosis is not something to be ashamed of ever. A diagnosis does not have to isolate or ostracize you from others. A diagnosis can create a community of support and create movement within your life. And a diagnosis can be your favorite thing about yourself.
And I think this one is such an important slide, and I know it's okay that we're running a little bit long because this is so important. No, honestly, don't worry about it, because so many of the people, many of you who are on this event right now, if I connected with you on TikTok, that may have been because you were feeling like your ADHD is who you are. But I remind my clients and people on TikTok all the time, it's a part of you, but it is not who you are. And not letting that define you or be ashamed by it. And it wasn't until I started actually doing that really I was able to turn my life around.
Yeah. And then I'll just leave you with, what is your favorite thing about your ADHD?
And would love to see some comments there.
Right.
Because it's very easy for any and all of us to think about what we don't do well, or as well as we think we should do it. But I want to know, what do you really enjoy about your ADHD? Caroline, you talked about Candyland, but I think we had one other thing. Here's what you said your favorite part was. Was this you or no?
What?
Did you add those, or was that Nancy?
I just found those. I thought they were really pretty.
Yeah. Whoops. Not ready for that yet. Okay. Well, great stuff. And I want to know, for Joy and for Caroline and for me, like, what are your favorite components of your ADHD? So you mentioned kind of Candyland versus Chutes and Ladders, but can you give us one other thing?
I mean, if you couldn't tell from this, I love psychology. I love helping people. I'm obsessed. Like when I become passionate about something, like, this is it. And this is my passion, and I love it. And I can spend hours and hours talking about it. And like, that's my favorite part about this. I think I run into a lot of people who don't have really passion in their lives. Right. And I was very, very lucky to find it and be able to make it into a career. And, this is my life, and it's amazing. I have chills now. So that's my favorite thing.
Joy, how about you? What's your favorite thing about your ADHD?
Good question. I think my favorite thing is also my most frustrating. I know that the things that I'm passionate about, I could excel at, and I'm very good. But then that leaves me always wanting to do something else. And, I could do this now, I could do this. And maybe common with a lot of ADHD adults, because you probably can do a lot of things successfully, but it's focusing on one thing and being where I'm at and growing from that present moment.
Love that. Yeah. For me, it's doing exactly what we're doing right here, which is bringing people together. Because what I think my ADHD does is I'm able to see the bigger vision when I might not be really good at the small detail parts, even if those are important. I can see the bigger picture. So like when I was talking with Joy in her office, because Joy is actually my nurse practitioner that prescribes me with my medication, I already basically was envisioning this moment of having her on here and having Caroline on here. So when Caroline, like 6-8 months ago, was saying like we should totally do something like this, like I was already able to connect this. And now some of the people who are in the comments, like, this is proving to me that I can do the things that I want to do, because bringing all 24 of these people in here and knowing all the people that are going to see this later, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that, Ryan.
I know. Thank you.
Oh, it's not really 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So we're going to do a 5-minute break, but I'm going to put on here 5 minutes. So I want to give everyone a chance just to get up, stretch a little bit, move around. I'm going to actually play, because I just feel intuitive. I'm going to do this. I'm going to play this meditation. So if anyone just feels the need to like calm themselves down a little bit, I'll have that going. But I would ask, since we are running a little bit behind, that you could be back here. Let me see if I can redo this. Hold on. There we go. So I'm putting this on, and I'm going to put the meditation on. So feel free to hang for a second, or if you want to go take a bathroom break. We've got 1 hour in. We're doing great, and we'll move quickly on the next round.
Sorry.
It's okay. If we need to stay a little longer, I think people will want to stay longer. So
Perfect. I got nothing going on, so.
in the meantime, if people are staying around, would love to know just some feedback, maybe what thoughts you had about what you heard from Caroline too. We're going to be sending out a survey afterward, but right now I'm going to bring up the meditation too. Joy and Caroline, make sure if you're moving around over there to go on mute if you don't mind.
Sorry for that.
It's okay. Okay, here we go.
Take this 1 minute to connect with your breath.
Can everybody hear this? If you can you, somebody like comment if you can hear this.
And feel yourself breathing out.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
Without trying to manipulate or change your pattern of breathing. Relax your jaw. Relax your shoulders. Notice how different one breath is from the next. It's the same with life. One day, one moment, different from the next, ever changing, ever evolving. What is going through your mind right now? Let it slip away. Just for this moment, come back to harmony. You are safe. You are accepted. You are forgiven. And you are loved. I'm going to make it bold.
Hope you enjoyed that. All right, I'm going to go on mute and I'm going to hit the bathroom too to be ready. Be right back. I don't know if we even, Heather, I don't even think we had music. I don't hear the music. I wasn't playing any music. It was just a countdown timer. But Heather, I do have a little surprise at the end of this timer because my guess was, knowing that so many of us have ADHD, you might get distracted. You're getting away from your computer. You kind of forget, like, oh, how much time is actually left? Maybe I should get back to my computer. But just in case you didn't.
Yay.
Big shout out to Tim, the IT guy on that one, because he set that all up for me, which was hugely helpful. But we don't want another timer. So let me get out of that. Hold on.
Brian, you could be my clicker.
Okay, will do. Present. Okay, if anyone is not here, please speak up now. Okay, good. Everyone's here. All right, Joy. We'll turn it over to you. And what I'm gonna try this feature actually. Hold on. It's a new thing that they have. See if this works. Can you see? Is there a timer over Caroline's face?
It's over your face.
Oh, it's over my face? Well, whatever.
But that's okay. I know what you look like.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll just help both of us, all of us, stay on track. So I'll kick it over to you because I'll say to everyone, actually, right before you start, the fun part about collaborating with fellow ADHDers is, I mean, Caroline even said it at the end. She's so passionate. We are all so passionate about these different topics that we present on. So it is challenging sometimes for us to stay on time, #time blindness. So I told Joy, I will help you to stay on track. So here we go. Let her rip.
Hello again. I apologize for my camera issues.
No worries.
All right. Well, here we go. So I introduced myself earlier.
And this was a group question. People might be wondering what options are ADHD medications. But let's talk about funniest part of your ADHD because this is a classic.
Right. So, as I'd mentioned before, I'm working in a practice now, seeing adults with ADHD and other diagnoses. And I was so proud of myself. One morning, I actually laid out my clothes the night before. I had my lunch packed. I had everything going for me that morning. I walked out. I was on time, parked the car in the parking lot of my office, and I needed to change my shoes before I got out of the car. And I get out of the car, go in the office. I'm like, this actually feels so strange. I'm not panicking at the last moment because I forgot something or, you know how that goes. So about 10 o'clock, I go back out to my car to just go get some fresh air. And this is what I see. Next to my car was the flip-flop that I had changed out of when I put my work shoes on to walk into the office. And I sent this picture to my two adult daughters. They're 23 and 20 who have ADHD. Little different presentations. And they were laughing so hard. They said, ha, 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 Mom, only you. And I said, hey, listen, you guys, I got you to adulthood and you weren't locked in a hot running car and forgotten and, basically made it alive through your childhood because it was quite chaotic at many times. I was a single mom for most of their lives. And I think what we learned is to just appreciate our quirkiness and, what makes us so unique.
And I thought at this point, it might be good to get a sense from the group. Just, hey, are you currently taking ADHD medication on a daily basis? And if so, feel free to share, or if you don't want to share, that's fine too. But I thought it might be good just for the community to get a sense for where everyone's at with that as Joy is explaining these next parts.
Let me add, I take medication as well. So, yeah.
All right. So non-stimulants and stimulants are the two different options in prescribed medication. I think, did you mention something about the alternative?
Yeah, I'm just going to be talking about, not as much about like supplements. That'll probably be a different one, but I'm just going to be talking about other ways that we can help to manage things on a daily basis.
Okay, wonderful. So the two categories of non-stimulants and stimulants are here on the screen. Non-stimulants, the atomoxetine or Strattera there's an asterisk there because it's the first choice option for an adult with ADHD. Then there's clonidine and guanfacine, which actually are in different doses used as blood pressure medications. And they are used they're approved in children under 18 to help the hyperactivity, impulsivity, oftentimes given at bedtime. I used to work with child adolescents, where some of my funniest stories came from. And then on the right side are stimulants, methylphenidates. This is the Ritalin family, and the amphetamines, which is the Adderall family. And I put the dexedrine up there because that's a very old stimulant and not in the main two. The main two are the methylphenidates and the amphetamines. All right. Yes. Carolyn, do you have a question? Oh, I thought you were here. Distracted. All right. So stimulants for ADHD come in short and long-acting dosages. There is an immediate release, so it's a short-acting stimulant dose, which peaks after several hours, and it must be taken 2 to 3 times a day. A long-acting or extended release stimulants lasts 8 to 12 hours and are usually taken once a day. There are some longer-acting extended release options now. Vyvanse could work for 14 hours in some people, and there's Mideas, which is marketed for college students, that is purported to work 18 hours. So it doesn't wear off when you're done with class and have to do your homework. The longer-acting versions of ADHD medication are often preferred since people with ADHD often have trouble remembering to take their pills. It's one of the reasons. Taking just 1 dose a day is much easier and more convenient. All right, this is how it all works. The stimulants work to increase neurotransmitter levels, big fancy word, of dopamine and norepinephrine between the brain's synapses. So there's a junction at the synapse. So there's a neuron and a neuron that's in the brain, and these cells are there. And what the medication does, it helps to get the chemicals to connect between the synapses. Dopamine, this is one of those. A neurotransmitter or chemical messenger is what a neurotransmitter is. Think of it's transmitting. Communicates with the brain cells to act in a pleasurable, euphoric, and excitable way. These are excitatory in nature, which motivates us and influences our behavior. And dopamine is released when your brain is expecting a reward. This is believed to get us to repeat pleasurable activity, reinforcement. So time out right there, Ryan, don't advance yet.
Yep.
So I just want to say really quickly that, well, you know what? I'm going to hold that.
Okay.
I'll hold that. All right. Norepinephrine. Another hormone and the most common neurotransmitter of the sympathetic nervous system. This is a basic hormone that is involved with survival instincts, which is fight or flight. Causes vasoconstriction in the blood vessels, and it increases output of blood from the heart, which increases blood pressure and heart rate. So if we are ever in a situation where our bodies, our brain sense danger, it kicks into this fight or flight. And the blood is shunted from extremities and other parts of the body to go to the heart and the brain so you can move quickly and make quick decisions to survive. Make us more awake and reduces digestive activity. Okay. Effects of ADHD medication. What does the medication do? It has a calming effect on the ADHD symptoms, typically hyperactivity, distractibility, and impulsivity. So for many adults with ADHD, hyperactivity, it may not come through as you could picture, the little kid in grade school that just can't sit still, all over the place, jumping out of his desk. I typically say his because typically a boy with ADHD tends to have the hyperactivity component of it. In adults, I really find that this comes through that impatience that you're finishing other people's sentences for them. Also, I think it makes people irritable because this impatience, this just wanting things to move quickly, makes somebody irritable that things just aren't moving fast enough. You're right, Ryan?
I'm just thinking, yeah, but are you good for me to advance?
Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know if you want to talk about the other ones at all.
All right. So how do you know when the meds are working? So I just want to take a step back here and talk about this. I've had many, many, many adults come into my office and are looking for medication management, which is what I do, for different diagnoses like depression, anxiety, maybe mood disorders like bipolar, PMDD. Obviously, my specialty is with women, pre and perinatal, postpartum. And I'll go through the visit with them. They'll come in. They'll say, oh, I've been on this medication, this medication, this medication, this medication, and nothing works. And they're just so frustrated. And they'll start saying things to me like, I can't fall asleep at night. I just laugh because it's just so me, and I could just relate so much to things that they're saying. I can't fall asleep at night because my brain just won't stop. It's like going over everything that I had to do that day that I didn't get done, that I have to do tomorrow, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And I do see that anxiety is a big component with this, but if somebody will tell me that, I got the radar is up. My ADHD radar is definitely up. If somebody comes in and, they go to fill out a questionnaire and they want to get their own pen. It's a female. She's got her big purse. She's like going through her purse and then she's pulling things out. She's like, and then, I wish I could just actually meet people in the parking lot because I don't know many ADHD people that don't have their life in the car just because you never know what you're going to need. And you open the door and things fall out and, but you are the go-to for everybody that needs something. You are you're the greatest resource because it's probably in my car. If you need something, I'll be right back. I'll go get it. So that's where, and I started saying this because as I'm talking to them, I very gently need to start, bringing up that there could be something else going on. And it could be something like attention deficit. And to some of the comments that I've seen and some of the things that you've said, they'll say, oh, yeah, I think somebody told me that I was ADHD, but then my parents didn't want to put me on medication because they didn't want me to be an addict or, they had me on it for a while and they said I got really, I had a bad reaction to them. So I was really aggressive or we'll talk about that because there's a lot of different side effects that could happen. And it's all in medication management. And I specialize in ADHD. So it's all about fine tuning and finding what works. I want the medication to work for the individual. And I told Ryan this on his first visit, the med should work for you. So if I were a diabetic and I'm looking at that big piece of chocolate cake with icing on it, I take extra insulin. Same thing with ADHD. If I have a busy day, I work with clients who, will do cascade dosing, maybe a long acting and a short acting, or don't take them on a day if you don't need it. Or sometimes taking medication in certain situations could be a wrong choice, like in a big crowd. If I'm really, really medicated for my ADHD, that can almost be too intense and I'm too focused because I'm not really aware of what's going on. I think that's a gift of an ADHD person is this awareness of the environment. I think we would be survivors at the beginning of time on this earth because we're watching, we can see the big picture and we know things that are going on that other people don't.
And one other slide that's having some issues popping up for whatever reason is, and it goes back to what you mentioned, difficulty sleeping and loss of appetite are common side effects of stimulants. That's the next slide.
Okay.
I don't know if you had any things about appetite that you wanted to say, because if not, I'll pull up the next one. But those were
that's it. Two most common side effects from taking a stimulant medication are loss of appetite and can't sleep at night. So we talk a lot about timing of the medication. If you're taking a long acting, you want to take it early in the day. If it does work 12 hours for you, you really don't want to take it probably after afternoon, because you're going to be up till past midnight. Same thing with the appetite. This is a really big deal with the kids that I work with because there's an appetite suppression that goes on, and try to get a kid to eat when they're not hungry. It's really difficult. At least an adult can say, you know what? We have more of that rational brain. We say, you know what? I need to make sure my blood sugar stays stable because I get really hangry if my blood sugar drops, and that's not good, especially when the ADHD medicines wear off, to be hangry and have a crash.
Great use of the medical term hangry. And also, I just wanted to comment and compliment Joy, because I'm open with all of you that she's my prescriber. And I was so impressed with the fact that she was the first person in my entire ADHD journey that had ever said to me, we have to make the medication work for you. Because up until that point, and it's nothing against, the medical industry or whatever, but I feel like a lot of times they say, here are the options, we'll pick one and then you'll take it. So I always felt like I was being forced to go with the medication. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, Joy, and say I really appreciate the fact that you actually customize with each patient to say, let's find a way that works for you. And it's very similar to what I do with my coaching clients is like, hey, this worked for some people. It doesn't mean it'll work for you. So let's try it out. But anyway, I just think that that's such an important thing, is finding a prescriber who cares about you too, which is what I feel with Joy, which is why she's on this webinar.
I think it helps that I get it. And if I have an ADHD person that comes in and they're already self-shaming, self-sabotaging, there's so many different common characteristics that are behaviors and statements that ADHD people make. I want them to know that I get it. I get it. Like, how could I have almost 5 degrees on my wall, but it takes me 15 times to get out of the house in the morning because I can't get everything all in one trip. But I've learned through coaching and counseling to be gentle with myself, because I think an ADHD person has so much of an ability to just put themselves down, because we're comparing ourselves to other people, but our brains are brilliant and like to go in all different directions before it'll just pick one and go in a straight line, which is a neurotypical brain. So I get it. And I hope that others can find someone that gets it and will listen with new ears. And I know that Ryan said that we're going to address some of the comments on the side.
Yeah, and somebody had asked, there's the feature in here, maybe Milton was just exploring, that you can do grab the mic. That's where you can actually pop up as one of the people on video and ask a question. So I will give everyone the opportunity to ask questions in a little while once I finish up. So,
okay. I know. See, we get so excited. There's so much we want to say. This is so
okay.
hard.
No, you're doing great. Yeah.
I'm doing my slides. I told Ryan, I'm like literally sitting on my hands because there's so much I want to add, but I'm trying to be focused.
It's okay. You're doing great.
So common side effects of stimulants include, and somebody had asked about stimulants and non-stimulants. Yes, there is a difference. If somebody's on a non-stimulant, you will not get these same side effects. Headaches, racing heartbeat, upset stomach, dizziness, irritability, depression, and tics. Tics are involuntary. Sometimes you may see somebody sort of moving their head, quirky. That's like a big tick. But I personally, I've even had like times when like a muscle above my my eye, up by my eyebrow will move. I know somebody that she has this cough that it's one of my daughters. I'll like, are you vaping? Are you using a Juul pen or whatever they're called? And she's like, yeah, Mom, I am. But I think this is a tick from her Adderall. So
I have friends that I know that sorry to interrupt, but just where they're like clearing the throat when it's like almost a minor version of Tourette's in a way. It's just not quite as extreme. So yeah, I know what you mean there.
Well, and this is definitely something to share with your prescriber, because underlying anxiety can exacerbate these tics when somebody's on a stimulant. So please work with your prescriber and your counselor. Common side effects. Here we go. Stimulation medications may also cause personality changes. And this is a lot that was alluded to earlier about what were you saying about like they're different, you just feel different. I've had couples, and I know many of you have gone to Ryan's seminars of couples relationships. I've had couples say that, you know, a woman starts taking some stimulants for her ADHD, and all of a sudden her husband's like, this is not the girl I fell in love with. This is not who I'm used to being around. You know, he was saying that he liked her spontaneous, impulsive, like that crazy her. And all of a sudden she's like real quiet and focused. And it will definitely cause personality change. It's also, going to the next slide, some people become withdrawn, listless, rigid, or less spontaneous or less talkative. This could be a big process of trying to learn who you are with medications and who you're not. That's why I loved what you said first, was talk about getting into counseling. If somebody has had ADHD their whole life, they haven't developed tools for time management, for organization, brain sequencing, taking one step to get to the next, that's a big tool that needs to be used with ADHD. So the more you could start working on those tools before you were to get on medication, if that's the course for you, is so important. Others may develop obsessive compulsive symptoms. I have seen people come into the office. This one gentleman said to me, he said, okay, so I have ADHD, and what is it about me that I still have to have my socks all rolled up and in color coordination in my sock door, just like I did when I was 6? That is helping anxiety. And it's a very important thing to, just normalize that for him. And I said, you know what? That is a wonderful thing to do. It's help you feel better and more in control of your environment, because as we know, as adults, there's a lot we can't control about our environment. So whatever you need to do, things to be worried about are self-harming behaviors. That's definitely something that needs to get evaluated and treated, probably with an additional medication. There could be skin picking. There could be, picking out eyelashes. So it's called trichotillomania. That's like that's a whole nother talk that we could do.
Yeah.
But all right. And then this is what we'll hear a lot with a hesitation of parents to put their kids on stimulants, is this last bullet point. To start, concerns about long-term effects on the heart because of increased blood pressure and heart rate. One of the biggest screening things that we'll do as prescribers is to see if there's a family history of heart disease or heart arrhythmias, any heart problems, seizures, because there are some people that could have seizures if they go on to stimulants without an opposing med to help the to help the seizures. These things with the blood pressure and the heart rate are really important to look at with, anxiety. If somebody has panic attacks and they have that racing heart rate when they go and have a panic attack. Sometimes that stimulant can make that worse. But I'd say I often see that people that have anxiety and have ADHD, like myself, are less anxious because they're managing their ADHD symptoms with medication. And then everything else can be addressed later.
One thing that I wanted to, oh, look at that. We get a little 30-second ding. Thanks, Run the World. Rocio Smith, who's one of the guests here, had commented just a little bit ago about seeing all of these side effects is making me not want to take the medication. And it's a very common thing to hear those people. And this is exactly why I brought both Joy and Caroline onto this, to be able to talk through these questions, these challenges that we have. Thank you for the ding ding. Okay. But what I would say, and I would love to hear Joy and or Caroline chime in on this too, is the analogy that I use is for our ADHD brains, getting medication is like glasses for our brains. Mm-hmm. In other words, like if you couldn't see across the room, would you have glasses? Oh, absolutely. So wouldn't you want to do something that could help to normalize the way that your brain works? And I know that a lot of like Ned Hallowell in some of his books, Dr. Ned Hallowell will say, you can always try these things, and then if they don't work, you can change it too. So if you do feel like there's side effects that come up that are really, getting in the way or really bothering you, you can always go back to your prescriber and change them. But anyway, I'm just wondering, Joy, if you have any thoughts on that perspective or that question of when people say,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's, again, we always look at risk versus benefits. Working very closely with, your primary care doctor and your prescriber. Sometimes the PCP will be the one to prescribe the stimulants. I've definitely seen a wave now of primary care providers saying anything that's a controlled substance, they're sending to psychiatry. And I get that because we've had a big opiate crisis. Now we're having a big benzodiazepine crisis. People are on them for long terms. But I'm also grateful that I have an electronic medical record where I'm in a system, a computer chart system, that I could access all of their records from any other provider that they see. I'm sending messages to their primary care like, hey, what are your thoughts? They're here for their ADHD symptoms. We are going to do a trial with stimulants. I just want you to be on board, or is this something that's definitely something you're not a fan of? Like, the more collaboration, the better. So yes, you can be on blood pressure medication and take stimulants. I think that was a comment that was on the right. There are people that come, I'll say one last thing. Medication is definitely something to pursue. If you're at a point where you're losing jobs, you're getting written up, it has the snowball effect, right? You're not performing well at work. So then the pressure's on to do something different. You get more anxious, which affects your focus. So medication, if I have somebody that walks in my office and says, listen, I just lost my third job and this isn't an option anymore. I don't even do the non-stimulant route with them. I don't do Strattera. I'm like, you know what? We're going right into the stimulants, because you will know almost the first day you take a stimulant if it's going to work for you or not. Mm-hmm. Then the art after that is adjusting doses, adjusting formulations, maybe the short acting, the long acting. So there's definitely a lot of tweaking that's being done. You also only get one prescription every 30 days with a controlled substance. So that's why it's good to have just a good conversation with your prescriber, because you're kind of locked into that. But the good news is after 30 days, you can make changes. So I'm out of time. There's so much more to say.
It's okay. Well, this isn't the last time that everyone's going to hear from you, but this is a great example of why I brought Joy on, because you can see she's very progressive. She's a leader in this field, and I'm happy she can be a part of the Ryan Mayer coaching community. So thank you again.
I'm so excited to help other people.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have any thoughts on that before I kick it off? Any things around medication, well, you know what? Because of time, I'm just going to get it going. But feel free to put in there your thoughts about Joy's presentation. And then also while I'm talking to, of course, I want you paying attention, and it's going to be so good you won't have a choice. But also, if you do have questions for either Joy or Caroline, feel free to ask those throughout. But first, let me tell you about the funniest part about my ADHD. Garbage day. So has anyone else experienced this? I actually did a TikTok on it, so some of you might already know kind of the spoiler alert on this one. But I get this big dopamine hit from like the accomplishment of checking something off the list of like, honey, I took out the trash, and then I take out the recycling, I get it all to the curb, and I'm like, you know, walking back in, and I'm all proud of myself. And then I walk into the house and I look over, and there is my empty garbage bin without a bag because I already completely forgot to refill it. Or it might be hours later that I go to like throw out, I'm like holding, you know, a piece of eggshells or something. I go to throw it away and there's no bag in it because I forgot. And then all of the positive part of the taking out the trash goes away, and it's drenched in the shame and frustration and negative self-talk. But I short-circuited that by figuring out a way to get around it. There's my shorts with a garbage bag in my pocket. So what ends up happening, and it's actually just, this is why I call it the funniest part. So that same story happens. I will take everything out. I go to every room. I literally write down what rooms do I need to go to. Oh yeah, okay, I got them all. Great. I take to the curb. Same thing. I'm walking back like, oh, that was so great. I'm so good. Oh, what's in my pocket? Oh, yeah, that's right. So then I walk back in and I'm like, you thought I was going to forget about your garbage can, but I didn't. Here I am. So that just was one thing that popped in my mind as the funniest thing. So this is great. We get an assessment. We get a diagnosis. We get medication. Okay. And then they send us on our merry way. And we don't get to call Caroline and Joy every day to be like, now what? Well, that's when you get tips from people like me, an ADHD coach, and your support network, like the people that you're seeing in these comments, those that you may have met on TikTok or other online communities. But really, it's so important. And I want to ask this to everyone. What do you feel right now is the hardest part of your ADHD to manage on a daily basis? I can tell you mine is getting to bed on time. Joy, Caroline, I know. What do you struggle with?
Sorry, there's a thunderstorm right now.
Well, yeah, I can hear that. Wow.
Yes, it's good. Mine is keeping my house clean. I just bought a house a year ago, and there's a lot of rooms.
Roger that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Joy, how about you?
I gave up on the clean house years ago.
Yeah.
Life's too short. Probably setting limits on myself. So I'm working with a patient. I'm typing the note. I'm documenting. Check. I will get to the very last second and hesitate before I sign it and close that chart because I panic. Like, oh my God, I forgot something. I'll go back to it later. Well, guess what? I don't have time to go back to all of them. So that is my hardest part. Knowing my limits.
Awesome.
Walking away.
That's a good one. I can confirm that Joy hasn't prioritized cleaning her house. And this is just, I'm joking, but this is like, I can't even make this up. It was so funny. The other night, Caroline, Joy, and I actually got together early, and we were, introducing and going over a dry run. And all of a sudden, we see a duck come onto the camera. And I'm like, she goes, "Hey, these are our pet ducks." I'm like, "You have pet ducks?" And she's like, "Yeah." So I'm not gonna have Joy tell the story. We'll leave that for later. But she goes, "Oh, the duck just pooped on the floor. Great." And I'm like, "This is such an ADHD scenario. Like, you can't make this up." But I do love seeing everybody's comments. And again, just for the sake of time, because I'm looking at it, I want to give you guys some time. I'm going to kind of fly through my stuff here so that we can get to the question and answer. It is okay for us not to be perfect. One of the things so many of us struggle with is having that perfectionism. I can tell you for each of the webinars that I've done, the OCD that Joy was talking about is very apparent when I'm putting these slides together. And they both know because I'm like, give me your slide. I must make X amount of bullets and all this stuff. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So I'm going to go back to that point. We don't have to do this on our own. That is so important. I'm going to re-emphasize it by doing the animation because I asked Joy for help. I asked Caroline for help. There's so many of you on this call that help me with so many things too. And that's okay. And what I did, that was the biggest thing to relieve my anxiety in prep for this presentation is my virtual assistant, Nancy, did a phenomenal job of doing so much of the PowerPoint so that I didn't freak out over it. So why coaching? And this gets into the daily management. I chose this picture for a specific reason because Joy and Caroline, or therapists and prescribers, will help us to understand the path forward. But check out this picture. We may not even know where are we trying to get to. And so that's where a coach comes in, is forces our rapidly moving brains to just time out for a second and think like, okay, well, where are you actually trying to go? That's going to help you to plan the next couple steps. Because if you don't know where you're trying to end up, you'll never know how to get there. Welcome to dopamine hunting. This is what we do. Our brains are always on the hunt for dopamine. And you heard from Joy's presentation why and what dopamine is and why it's important. I always think about it kind of like a slot machine, because our reward center, most other people, if they get a task done, they like, I'm going to do my taxes. Ding, 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 ding. Congrats. Here you go. You're done with your taxes. Ours is like, if we did taxes, we'd be pulling the lever and it's like, I'm not doing this. So I say that because our reward center is broken. So we are always scanning the horizon, hunting for, in our minds, what's the next thing I could do that'll actually feel good or it'll just be easy? I'm going to do that instead. But why do we need so much help? Because we need to build a strong foundation. Would love to see the comments. What is the difference between these two structures? I'm going to take a sip of water. Caroline, feel free to chime in. It looks like you want to.
And this is kind of funny. Like, that actually does look like what my house is a bungalow. That actually kind of looks like my house. Not that, I mean, it's built better.
Little do you know, I just snapped this photo of your house last time I was over. Okay, but all right, Darlene says, oh my God. Okay, the right one is Michael Craig loves the visuals. Glad. All right, so the key here is the foundations. So the way that humans have been able to build taller and taller buildings is they have to dig several stories into the earth to set the foundation so that they can then build it up so it can resist wind and storms and all of that. Whereas this house on the right, it was not built on a strong foundation. Something went wrong, the earth shifted, whatever, but now it's collapsing because there wasn't a strong foundation. So what coaching can help you do, and really what we can do for ourselves, doesn't that look nice? We can do these basic things. And this is really, again, I'm going to send follow-up with resources, but for my portion of the presentation, all of the stuff up to this point, like Caroline can get you your diagnosis. Joy can get you the medication. And again, I'm just using their names, not specifically them, but your prescriber and your therapist can get you to that point. A coach can give you all the strategies and tips and do all the funny TikToks and send you all the funny memes, but none of that's going to matter until you start focusing on the foundational things in your life like this. Because you might have the perfectly tuned medication for your brain, but if you're trying to do that on 4 hours of sleep every day, it's not going to work. If you're falling asleep at the wheel, or you can't stay awake at work, or you are rushing so you don't get good food, like all of these things are so important for us to be able to function effectively. We're going to go into each of these, but these are kind of the 4 key ones that I want to talk about. And overall, just having support. That could be your therapist, your coach, your family, your friends. So many of you I've even seen in the comments just during this presentation have talked about how friends and family are skeptical, or maybe they said, no, I don't want to put you on meds, or just try harder. You're being lazy. Like all of these things that we've heard so many times, which are just simply not. And that's why you have to have people around you that understand how ADHD works and try to guide you to stay on track for yourself. This is what support needs to be for our brains. I put, the 4 A's here. There's an article I read recently, and it talked about something called the prosperity zone, which I thought was really interesting. And basically what that was all about alignment. So for a long time in my career, I struggled because Caroline said this earlier, and it was like, wow, that perfectly describes it. She said she would think about the person before the problem. And the way that my ADHD manifests is that I am hyper-focused on other people. Like when I meet somebody, I just want to learn everything about them and do whatever I can to help them. And I think many of us can relate to that, just wanting to help every single person that we meet. And I can just imagine Andrea being like, Ryan, okay, we don't know that person, right? They don't need your help. But in my other jobs, it turns out the businesses didn't care. My boss one time came up to me and said, Ryan, you're not here to make friends. You're here to sell deals. And so that was like one of the things where I heard that. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to be the job for me. Didn't say it to him, but it wasn't until I found coaching where I realized, wow, I can actually help people, and that can be my job. And hyper-focusing on them and remembering things about them, that there is a place for that. Because I always thought like, man, I have this amazing ability to remember all of these different details, but it just seems like it's a waste because I can't fill out a form at the end of the whole thing. But now I finally found it, and I have built up the support around me to do the things I'm not good at. But this isn't just about me. This is about everyone who's here and everyone who's going to see this presentation. Getting people who can help you to get a new perspective. Caroline talked about that before earlier. Just as it's important in your diagnosis, it's also just as important in your support. Because with my clients, so many times when they come to me, just as when they come to Joy, I really liked what Joy said about normalizing it for that patient that she worked with. I remind my clients, you're doing some amazing things. You're a mom, you're a dad, you're a business owner, you're working out every day, or you're doing yoga, or you're on a diet, all these different things that they forget. Well, yeah, I guess I'm doing those hard things. So having someone to acknowledge and then affirm you, saying I sign off all my emails, I believe in you. And that's really intentional because throughout our whole lives, it's been reinforced to us that we're not doing it the right way. Well, I say screw the right way, do it your way, the way that it's going to work for your brain, that's going to get you to the results that'll make you happy. Because the biggest epiphany that I ever had was the reason why I got so depressed is because I was measuring myself against the standards of other people. So I kept basically trying to be neurotypical, and I'm never going to be neurotypical. So of course, I'm always going to fail at being neurotypical because I'm just not. So once I was like, oh, maybe I should just do what I'm good at, boom, there it is. Everything has come into place. And the part that I struggle with, and so many of us struggle with, is accountability. And that's where my coaching clients see probably the most benefit, arguably, is I provide them with the structure that we all desperately need, where each time we jump onto the coaching call, and this is always the hardest part, is within the time slot, which we always go to the very end, which we'll do today too, it's let's cover everything, but then get you actionable steps moving past here that you're going to do. Oh, wow. We got some, okay. They're little musical chairs. There you go. These are, I promised everyone, we wanted to give you very tangible things that you can do coming out of this presentation that can help you. And these are things that, as I like to say, they are common sense, but not common practice. So sometimes I'll ask my clients when they come in, and I'm sure Caroline and Joy can relate to this, that the person is all just wrapped up. They're all wound up. They're very anxious. And I'll ask them, have you been outside recently? Like, well, I mean, I just, came in for this call or this appointment. Okay, but like, have you gone for a walk? Have you stopped to breathe? Have you sat down and relaxed? Have you talked with a friend? We don't always have to get our dopamine from accomplishing 10,000 things in a day. So what I would see, coaches don't always challenge. What I try to do is invite. I would invite everyone who's on here to think about fun ways that you can also get dopamine. They may or may not involve alcohol and things like that. How about just getting out in the sun, getting some vitamin D, dancing or singing? I know we were just yesterday, we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we were all dancing to Disney music. And to me, there's really no better way to get dopamine than that. So just keeping in mind that there's ways that you can do that. And when it comes down to it, for so many of us who have big goals for ourselves, crossing things off a list does feel really good. And not going to lie, there's definitely been times where I finish a task, but then I forgot that I didn't write that one down. So I write it down so I can just cross it off. Like, we've probably all done that. Love that one. So in closing, did you think you're going to leave with that little sales pitch? Well, no. Amazing offer. Group coaching is something I just released. And the reason why I did that is because my coaching can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month for one-on-one coaching. And that doesn't work for everyone, and I get that. So what I did for anyone who's on the webinar, just feel free to send me a message, an email, or through TikTok or whatever. Group coaching is normally $200 a month instead of $500 or $1,000. And the group coaching that I have brought together, it's so far honestly been the most fun I've had since I've started coaching, because imagine the environment and like how much fun Caroline and Joy and I have had just chatting today. Imagine that, but with a bunch of people in a very supportive environment where we're all helping each other and setting goals. So I am almost full, but I have these 3 different spots. Would love to hear from you if you're interested. And I know there's a couple of you that are on the call that are already part of it, which you're part of the reason why I'm having so much fun. So thank you. All right. So now the last portion is the question and answer. And how do we do here? All right. We got 11 minutes, but we can stay a little bit longer. We did pretty good. Pretty proud of myself how fast I went through there. Caroline, did you have a question? Looked like you were going to say something.
No, but I'm absolutely going to keep my mic off as much as I can because the thunderstorm is crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, Heather says, I wouldn't know when to speak. Well, Heather, that's the cool part about having a coach that facilitates and moderates the group coaching is we basically, I go around and we check in. There's no more than 10 people in each group. So everyone gets a chance to share. Sometimes people don't need or want to share. It's just being in a supportive environment and being like, oh, wow, everyone else experiences these issues too, is really a nice thing. Okay. So Rocio asks a question here about what food affects and what helps. So I don't know if either of you have thoughts on food. My recommendation would be whole food. So the easiest way to think about it is something that grows on a tree or out of the ground is a really good place to start. Not something that's made in a factory or has, like a bunch, no offense to Cheetos, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Like, you can't find a Cheeto tree anywhere, like stuff that's not okay.
I agree. If you search for different lists through resources, they'll typically talk about artificial coloring, artificial sweeteners. The bottom line is going back to the basics and avoiding things that are manufactured, like Ryan said. I think somebody had mentioned well, maybe I made it up in my mind too. So if somebody has had any sort of inflammation in their body, or if they have any sort of inflammatory related health condition, and you also have ADHD, pay attention and work with somebody to help you figure out the things that might be flaring up your immune system, because that'll also affect your brain. Your gut and your brain especially are extremely linked, and you don't want to cause any aggravation to your body because it will irritate your brain, and then your ADHD can be worse. I said as a post-concussion TBI survivor.
One of the things that I do as a person with ADHD that forgets to eat a lot is I hide food in my office. So I'm like a squirrel. So I hide like packs of like nuts that you get at Trader Joe's. Like they are literally lining my chair. So, I go from patient to patient, like I have like 5 minutes in between. So I literally will hide food places so that I always have it. And you force yourself to eat a lot. There have been times where I've literally my blood sugar has dropped and I had to like throw up and it was a bad situation. So now that's one of the ways that I've figured out how to do that. But I saw one person posted tips and tricks about diagnosis. If you could be more specific, I'd be happy to answer it, but I don't need more.
One specific question that Darlene had was about the TOVA test. I'm not familiar with what that is, so I thought it'd be a good Caroline question.
So the TOVA test is accurate, but you need more. It's always suggested that you have more than just one assessment. When you're getting an assessment done, like you're going to have more than one done. But like, if you just come in and it's like, I did the TOVA test, it's like, okay, well, it needs to be more than that. So yes, it is accurate. There are a lot of ADHD assessments. And so it's just basically whatever the clinician is familiar with, what they use. But yes, it is accurate.
And similar question, Dawn has a really good one. I have an appointment for an assessment next week. Should it still cost over $1,000 for the 3 appointments with insurance? That seems like a lot.
Depends. Yes. So it depends on your insurance. But that doesn't surprise me. Sometimes if you've met your deductible, that will shift. Yeah, that it can cost that much, which is really, really unfortunate. Because that's what stops people a lot from getting the help that they need, want, and deserve. Sometimes you will find clinicians that will work on a sliding scale. For assessments, that's probably not going to happen. But if you find, like, I know a lot of therapists, I work on a sliding scale, which means that if I know that a person doesn't have insurance, typically if they don't have insurance, I will not ask them to pay my full fee because that's my personal perspective. And so based on like what I know that they're comfortable paying, that will be, and we figure that out together. So.
Isabel Rachmanoff had a good question. Can a diagnosis be wrong in one way or the other? Being diagnosed, even if it isn't correct, or being diagnosed, even if you are, So basically, like, can you get diagnosed? Like, let's say you think you have ADHD, but maybe you get diagnosed as just anxiety and not ADHD.
So if you don't agree with your diagnosis, I would say get a second opinion first. You can have assessments done by other clinicians. But if it does come back that the assessment does not say that you have ADHD, then Joy, you might be able to answer this then. Does that affect the medication part of it? Because I would treat, if they believe they have ADHD, I'm going to go with that and
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think somebody had asked earlier if they were diagnosed as a child, do they have to go through that questionnaire all over again? I'd say most prescribers probably won't need you to do the full-on assessment.
Yeah.
But we just have the self-reported symptoms, ASRS. I'll have people fill that out. I'll have it scanned into their chart and just have that as supportive documentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What else did somebody ask? Oh, I don't know who said it, but there was a comment about self-hate. And I just want to talk for just a few seconds or moments about self-compassion that somebody responded with. And I think I've shared with a lot of ADHDers this thing about the self-shame and self-judgment, being so hard on ourselves. And this is where getting into a group is really going to be great for you, just to know you're not the only one that is like this. Mm-hmm. And Caroline, just connecting with Caroline and Ryan for this presentation, it just, I'm having all these camera problems, and I'm like, oh God, I would have started crying, or there's been times I've sabotaged myself and just have not gone places before because I was running so late and I didn't want to hear all the comments. Or that takes therapy, that takes coaching, that takes a lot of self-compassion. It's humbling. Ooh, Caroline.
I know. To Pittsburgh. Yeah, and just like to go off of that, I also saw somebody said that they really beat themselves up about their parenting skills, and that they're constantly just and I hear this all the time, that I'm not good enough. I could be doing this better. Why is everything so hard? And it's trust me, I feel the same way a lot. It's just why does everything have to be so hard? Things are hard. And I think actually that's one of the greatest things I've ever gotten really used to saying, is that things are harder for us with a neurotypical or a neurodivert brain. However, that doesn't mean our lives aren't as good, or that you're not a good parent, or that you're not a good wife, that you're not a good husband, that you're not a good sister, brother, all that stuff. And so it's just really being your best version of yourself, regardless of what's enough. I don't know.
And surrounding yourselves by people that understand you, that will not judge you. Raising my girls, I had 3 sisters that all had their own kids. I was a working mom. I had 3 jobs. None of my sisters worked. Their houses were perfectly clean. And I just would be I don't want to feel like I'm being judged and I have to meet their expectations when they come over. So I'd learn to pick and choose, or I'd meet them out somewhere. You just learn to do what works for you to manage stress. And I don't know, it's very complex. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ryan's back.
Yeah. I got nervous just that it kicked everybody out. I was like, wait, what happened?
Not that I was going to be the only one. And Caroline had to finish. So I'm I could keep talking.
You can run the show. You could totally do it.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm back. Thank you. I knew it'd be in good hands if it was still there. So that's good. Well, we also have that grab the mic option. So if anyone else has another specific question, it might be kind of fun just to welcome somebody up on stage if you're down. Oh yeah, Milton's been waiting. So here we go. Let's welcome Milton.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We're just
Sorry.
waiting on Milton. Here we go. We got you, Milton. It's okay. I can hear you now.
Can you hear now? Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we got you.
Down and I couldn't realize it was just me.
That's okay.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Quick question. I am diagnosed. I'm 47. I'm also diabetic, and I'm experienced, and obviously I don't have medication for the ADHD. All my life, I know that it was different. And so my question to you is, I'm having a lot of the side effects without having the medication. So I experiencing those. So what does that put me in? How can I get a? Because I know the more I learn about this, the more I lean towards the ADHD. I do things that you guys are expressing that is okay, that's me. That's what I do, and things like that. So, and I get the hopes of I am getting to the right point where I need to be, because right now I'm diagnosed as bipolar, but my depression and my anxiety is not because of that. It is because it's I know it's from a different foundation. It's a different outlet. So what would be your suggestion for me?
So I just want to make sure I understand. So you do not, or you do have a ADHD diagnosis?
I am not being diagnosed. I believe I do, but I'm being diagnosed. I'm being misdiagnosed as bipolar.
Got it. So I'll let Caroline maybe handle.
I was going to say that.
I'm triggered right now because this is what I see in practice. People will come in with the bipolar diagnosis because, uncontrolled, unmanaged, unmedicated ADHD absolutely can look like you're bipolar. Yeah. Absolutely. So I just had to say that I'm very triggered, and I'll let you talk, Caroline. But Milton, are you struggling because you feel like it's going to be challenging for you not to be able to eat when you're not hungry? Is that what? Yeah,
and I didn't boot him, but maybe. Oh, okay. He wants the mic back. Here we go. We'll give it a shot. It's just kind of fun. All right. And then Courtney will be next. I saw that you wanted to pop up too. So we're letting him in. But yeah, if we can do the grab the mic, that's great. And we'll see if we can get.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Yes, I'm like Caroline. I do those tricks as well. That I have food in my room because I need to eat, and I had to do the constant things. Like I had to reward myself in that way that I know that it keeps reminding me. I even start cooking because of that. That gives me a little bit of a dopamine rush that, that makes me the happy moment that I accomplished something, that I did something or something like that. And there will be times where I completely will trying to do that. And then I will just be at my room and trying to get the strength to go out to get a glass of water. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I can't. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. And then but yeah, it was funny when Caroline was saying that, that she hides food. Like, yes, I'm a squirrel too, because I hide things.
No, it's fun being a squirrel.
And so just to make sure I understand, Milton, because I want to make sure you get your questions answered too. Were you wondering if you should maybe try to get another opinion? Because that's kind of my thought on it. If you think it's ADHD, maybe it's worth seeking a second opinion.
And that's what I'm doing. I actually talked to my therapist and my psychiatrist 2 weeks ago. And I tell them, I think this is wrong. I think I'm leaning more to this. And my psychiatrist says, yeah, we probably need to go and look for a second opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to reach out to the community and trying to see where should I go? How do I do it? Unfortunately, I go into a divorce. So my insurance is going to end by the end of the year. So it's just a lot of things going on along with the things that unemployed. So it just makes the situation, like you were saying, Ryan, that, it is just a little bit difficult because of the financial situation. So
cool. We're so happy that you're here. Let us know how we can support you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Thanks.
All right. We're going to welcome Mr. Brent Green up to the stage and see what Brent's got going.
Okay.
Pretty soon. Brent, we got you.
We see you.
Oh, can't hear. We got to unmute though. Can you unmute?
Do you have two people on mute, Ryan? Or on microphone?
No, there's only one. There should be a button, Brent. I think you have to press it to. Don't worry, we're here for you. Take your time. Don't feel anxious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, now I can hear you.
Hey, Ryan. So I had a question about my ADHD, and I don't know the best way to word it. But I was wondering.
Let her rip, babe.
No judgment.
I was wondering if, so when I was younger, I was diagnosed with opposition defiance disorder. But my mom had her PhD in childhood psychology, and she told me that was not it. It was ADHD. She was very clear about that. The reason she refused to get me diagnosed with it is because she believed that I wanted to join the military. And as such, you need medicine to join the military. So she told me that I could either get diagnosed or I could join the military. And since my dad was in the military, I decided the military. But I was wondering, due to the diagnosis, I was told that we're not as sensitive to other people's needs and wants. So I tried to go out of my way more to make, be more sensitive. But I still come off kind of mean. I don't know if that's because of the ADHD or I'm just bad at it.
Are you on medication or not?
No, I just drink a lot of energy drinks, and I choose jobs that support my my job, like security for a living. Like you guys can see, I'm in a gay house right now. Supports ADHD because anything that's out of line that we notice is perfect. Like if anything looks off, we catch it. So it was a good field for me to get promoted in quickly, and allowed me to be myself. Because I tried medicine for ADHD, and it zombified me. So we decided that was just not what's in cards for me. And my wife is atypical, so she helps even out the playing field. But I was trying to figure out if it was the ADHD that was causing me to be less sensitive, even though I'm trying to be more sensitive, or if it could be something that I might be missing.
So when you say like you're less sensitive, does that mean that you are kind of like unaware of what other people are feeling? Like you can't empathize, or?
Well, like I can give you a perfect example. So I was doing security, and this lady tried to go into the restroom as I was doing security checking it, and the light was on. So I told her, the restroom was closed. You can tell that by the light. And I thought that was a good way to tell her. That way she can see for future reference. But the cleaner lady had seen it told me that was a dick way to say that. And I said, well, I viewed that I was teaching her something that she can use for the future references, and I didn't view it was like a mean way to say it.
My thought is, as long as you are being yourself,
Correct.
and trying to be yourself versus trying to be what you think other people want you to be, is I don't know. I think it's the best way to live, because the more you're trying to I need to be sensitive about this, trying to say things so that people take them a certain way. We have no idea how people are going to perceive things. So it sounds like you actually said it a really nice way and nothing was wrong with that. But that one person was like, oh, that was a dick thing to say. Why are they?
I was trying to understand how it was addicting to say, because it made no sense to me. It just went over my head.
No, I don't think
you preface that too. I don't want to come off wrong here, but I just think ba-ba-da-ba-da, right? Just say, I didn't have to tell you this, but I don't know how you're going to take it, right, Caroline? I mean, there's...
Yeah, and we can't cater to other people's, what we think other people want us to be or say or all that stuff, because we just have no idea. And so
I know the company is really bad about telling them that information. So I view that by giving that information, it'll prevent something like that happening again. Therefore, they don't have to walk all the way over there.
Yeah, I think you did it right. And
I would say my thing here, and I want to give some other people a chance to ask questions too, is just asking, maybe you could ask her a question ahead of time too, like, were you aware that if the light was on, that means that the bathroom's in use? Because maybe she didn't know.
I feel like that'd be kind of addicting to say, because I feel like it's like, did you know? I feel like that could come off really mean. So
yeah,
okay.
I don't.
Can I ask you, who told you weren't good with people?
Just a lot of people growing up. Like my one guy, my disciplinarian, told me that I can't have ADHD due to the fact that ADHD people can't have friends, and therefore, since people talk to me, I can't be ADHD. So then that got me paranoid to think the fact that I can't hang around these guys for too long, because then they'll find out that I have ADHD, and then they won't be my friend.
It sounds like you're just hanging out with the wrong people, actually. So welcome to the ADHD place.
Hey, we get you, Ryan. I mean, I said the wrong name.
I'm going to drop the mic, that way somebody else could talk. I'm sorry.
All right, thanks, Brent. No,
Thanks.
Don't apologize. You're good.
Well, while you're transitioning, I think sometimes an ADHD trait is this hyper focus. Like you're so concerned and you're just zeroing in. Yeah, you're not aware of how it's going to come off, because you got to tell them, right? This is important information. So that's the coaching and
right.
And I know some people have to leave. We're going over, but I want to give everybody time. So if you want to stay, we're gonna be here and keep this going, because this to me is really the most beneficial part of this. I know that we had a couple people. Darlene, I know you had requested the mic earlier. So if there are some others that...
I feel like Courtney was first.
That is true.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Courtney will still be here. Let's see. Jennifer says one of her struggles is that she has a really hard time disciplining her staff and her children. too. That can be a tough one.
What's the gentleman that just talked? I forget his name.
Brent Green.
Kudos, man, because you have found a partner and you have jobs that you're doing that let you be you. And that's like Caroline is saying, you're not trying to be somebody else, trying to fit into another box. It's celebrating who you are. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome. I got goosebumps.
Yeah, that's cool. Darlene, are you back? And I know Lacey, I think you may have wanted to ask a question earlier. She asked it okay, Darlene, do you want the mic? You want to jump in with your question? Okay. Let's see. You have to press the request the mic because I don't think I can. Oh, yes, I can. Sweet. Now coming to the stage, Darlene Stacy. I think I did it.
Hi, you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Hi.
Yay! It worked right away. Awesome.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay, so I have a question about my. I started seeing my therapist originally for grief counseling, and then I just kind of stuck with him because I liked him, and he was great. I was talking about everything in life. And then I started trying to get a diagnosis from him for ADHD. Oh, by the way, these are great. A spinning ring. I love these.
Oh, yeah.
All day long. And he doesn't agree with me because I got good grades when I was 10 years old. And I was able to take care of my siblings that were being abused. Like, oh, okay, but whatever. But my question is, I wanted to keep him to continue to talk to because he's so great for my grief and everything else. But I want to go to somebody else to get a diagnosis for ADHD. Is that okay to hang on to him and go to someone else? Or is that like going behind his back and being incredibly rude? I don't want to.
There's a lot of parts to this. Do you want me to be super honest right from the start?
Yeah, go for it, please.
Okay.
Yeah, lay it out.
It is the fact that he said that you don't have ADHD because you got good grades at 10. He doesn't know. He doesn't understand. He's not an educated clinician. That's my first and foremost thought. Like, he might be great, but like, I'm sorry, like any clinician knows that that's bullshit. Like, I just don't. That really makes me angry to hear that someone said that to somebody.
Yeah.
Because it has nothing to do with our
intelligence
level. Like, actually, I had someone say that, like, she was told to have ADHD because she's too smart. In terms of going to a different therapist, insurance-wise, they will not pay for two. So you have to go to one. Like, also, like, I get this a lot. People are like, I don't want to. No one wants to hurt anyone's feelings. It does not hurt.
I don't care.
Don't.
I don't care.
My instinct is, I feel like there might be a better clinician out there for you at this point to address the problems, or to address not problems, the what you want to address now. And like, he was really helpful and wonderful during that time, but like, I've had 4 therapists throughout my life, and they've each helped me with a different thing that I've been going through at that time. Mm-hmm. And so they've each been very specific.
I've had 6 ADHD coaches, and they've all helped me with different things. So like, he's had people leave him before. So what's most important here is you.
Yeah.
You have to do what's best for you, and sticking with him is not the best thing.
It really bothers me that he said that.
Yeah, believe me, it really bothered me.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's like this little Oriental man, and he's been like so relaxing for me for the grieving process. Sure. I lost my husband, and thank you. And he's just been super for that process. And I was like, oh, I don't want to let you go because of that. But it's like, I kind of need to get on with my life. Wow. It's in a whole shambles here. So, each has
a purpose. And I think maybe his purpose is coming to a close and finding somebody that you're ready like to address the next part of your life with.
Exactly.
Cool.
Oh, I love you guys. Thank you.
All right. Cool.
We love you.
Cool. Thanks. Love you too.
All right, we're going to let Michael come up to the stage. Thanks, Darlene. It was really good to have you up there, and thanks for being willing to be vulnerable and ask that hard question too. Like, honestly, this is reminding me a lot of the group.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. And I'm not sure how you came up on my For You
There we
page,
go. All right,
Ryan.
Michael,
but,
can you restart it? Sorry, I don't know if it was my internet, but I didn't hear the beginning. Go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for, I'm not sure how you ended up on my For You page on TikTok, but I'm grateful you did. I've been struggling because I've been trying to find somebody to diagnose me. You did give me the advice on the TikTok the other day to go Psychology Today. My problem is most of these that show they're taking new patients, I'm calling them, and none of them are actually. So now I've resorted to calling ones from the insurance and Psychology Today that say they're not taking new patients. I am on a waiting list with one, but so far I've called 12 people, 12 doctors. So I'm getting frustrated and I'm getting antsy. I'm also in a situation where I'm off of work. I was in a toxic environment, an abusive boss, and I did let him know that I had ADHD, but he was not giving me any accommodations and getting very frustrated and angry with me and yelling at me for totally unrelated things. I have 30 days, and I've got 2 weeks left for my 30 days to get some kind of diagnosis that says why I can't go back to work. So I need to get to hold of somebody like now. So I don't know if any other resources or advice you could give me to get somebody.
Yeah, I'll jump in there because I know Courtney has mentioned in the comments, and she and I have talked about this a lot. Trisha is saying this as well. So maybe write down this one, which is ADHD Online.
Okay.
They have about a 24-hour turnaround on their assessments, and it's $150. So as you know, earlier Caroline was talking about the fact that like there's ranges, there's all these different levels of assessment, but given your circumstances, I would say this would be kind of that quick turnaround is going to be really important for you.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, the tricky part is I need to get them to fill out some actual paperwork that says when they saw me, what the diagnosis is, when I can go back to work, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the strange thing was my HR told me, well, normally what we do is you go back to work and we figure this out. I said, why would I go back to work in a toxic environment? This guy's hostile. He's yelling at me because of a sign in the fridge, or I left a cup in the sink, which in the 2 years I've worked there, I think I left a cup in the sink maybe twice in the 2 years. So when he has, and I know, and I've been trying to be nice to the guy because he's dealing with his wife who's got cancer, but I talked to a former coworker who also quit because of his verbal abuse. Yeah. She said, Michael, he was abusive to you and I way before his wife got diagnosed with cancer. He's just an abusive, hostile person. It's good that you get out of there. But in the meantime, I can't go back in there because I'll either start crying or I'll punch the guy. One of the two. And I can't be in that environment.
So just a couple of things. I know Courtney is commenting in the comments that like they may be able to. I think it's worth a shot to try ADHD Online to start. And just tell them what you need and see if they might be able to help. But I was going to suggest what you already said, which is time to also start looking for a new job, which I'm sure you probably are. Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that, as Brent Green just put it, the TikTok gods know well. But I'm hoping that you ending up being on this webinar can be some help for you to get you where you need to go.
Definitely. Thank you so much for all of your time and your help, and keep doing the good work. And if you have any recommendations of people in the Bay Area for coaching, you're on the East Coast, it seems like, Ryan, so those times don't work for me, but I would love to be set up with a coach like you.
Well, let's connect, because I know some that are out your way, and there might be some options we can talk about too.
Okay. Well, you can direct message me then.
Totally. But I want to let Caroline, it sounded like she had a question.
Are you looking for people strictly for assessments, or are you reaching out to like LPCs, mental health therapists as well?
That would be all of the above.
Okay. Because I was going to say, like, I can provide, like, as a clinician, like, I can provide letters and whatnot saying, like, here's what I see. So it's different than an assessment, but it's just like, here's this and this. So keep trying that route too, very much so. And if, if I can help, So.
And the last question was, I'm sorry to add one more question. This, what are your thoughts on the Amen Clinic? Because I've had multiple head injuries, even as a little kid. I've had multiple concussions, and I was in a motorcycle accident, bashed my head in the freeway. So I'm wondering, maybe I have some mild traumatic brain injury. It's like $5,000, and the insurance doesn't cover it. But I think, I don't know what your thoughts are about this brain scan that they do at the Amen Clinic.
Do you have a neurologist? Assessment?
I have somebody I'm going to be seeing, but the problem is they're 6 months out. I won't be able to see them until February next year. So
while Dr. Amen is expensive, he's also the best in the business as far as like most well known for specifically being able to do brain scans that are about ADHD. So, I mean, I would say if the budget is potentially there, it may be worth your time, because it could give you some. Just like I talked about, getting that sense of relief, like it might be very cathartic and comforting for you to be able to know, like, oh, it's because part of my brain is swelling into an area it's not, or not supposed to be, or whatever.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good luck, and I hope you get out of that job.
Yeah, let us know how we can help.
Appreciate it, all of you. Thank you.
And then let's see. And this is fun. We have Isabel, who's coming to us from France, if I remember correctly.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
So yeah, I'm Isabel. I'm 20.
Virtual stage.
And I am in
hi.
the middle.
Hey, can you start it over again? I don't know if it's my internet, but just start it from the top.
No, it's probably mine. So at the moment, I am in the middle of the diagnosis for ADHD. So I had the first testing like 2 days ago, and the results are planned for the 6th of September. Okay. So right now I am in a period with just like stress every single day. So I would like to ask all of you if any of you had methods and try to maybe relax a little bit.
Just about the potential diagnosis, or just life in general?
The potential diagnosis.
Yeah, like you're waiting to get that result and you're feeling anxiety about what is the result going to be?
Yes.
Got it.
So my thought is the assessment's over. Like, you can't do anything at this point. Whatever the assessment is going to say, it's going to say. And then whatever the next steps are after that, that's then like what the clinician will help you, will guide you towards. So in a way, like, it's all out of your hands right now. Like, but are we spinning on like the what ifs? So like, if it's this, then this, if it's that, then that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'll say, just coming off of the knowledge that Caroline shared with us, regardless of what it says, it doesn't change who you are.
Right.
So yes, there's definitely, it is nice to get maybe a confirmation that we have ADHD if we think that's what it is. But also, I don't want you to let whatever the verdict is like impact you in a negative way, because you're already you're taking action to make changes in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but the thing is if it's not ADHD, then it can be something else. And if it's something else, what can it be? It be more tests. I've already been tested different way for a year, so it's starting to get a little tiring.
Yeah, and that's such a hard part of this process, especially with medication too. Like, sometimes you have to go through lots of different things to find the answer. But I think really bringing it back to like, yourself, and I know that it's really, it will, because I do believe that you're going to find some answers. It will feel good when there's clarity, but at the same time, it's just like, it's not, a diagnosis doesn't define who you are. So
however, a diagnosis will help with
right.
getting medications,
right.
getting accommodations, getting
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I appreciate, your concern.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is, just like when we were on break there and I did the 1 minute meditation, these are things where you can do some anxiety reduction work of listening to music that you like, or, you know, surrounding yourself with people who support you, talking with friends or family, and doing, I know ADHD and meditation don't always seem to go together very well. But that's why I do that 1 minute one. Cause if I think of anything more than a minute, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But I don't know. Do any of those ideas help?
Yeah, I can try. I mean, didn't try anything.
Okay.
So, yeah, why not?
Well, I look forward to hearing what you hear back, and again, let us know how we can help too.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you.
You're welcome, absolutely. And it looks like, let's see, Javi, I'm going to bring you up to stage next. And I want to ask Caroline and Joy, are you okay on time? Because I know we have gone past.
A few more minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, and I see
Javiera
Okay.
Casanova, maybe the coolest name ever.
Sorry about this.
Hello,
My cat is
Javiera.
a bit invasive. So what I wanted to ask is that I was diagnosed about a month and a half ago after years of not being diagnosed because, she has good grades, she can sit still, so she doesn't have ADHD, obviously. But you move over here. But I've been struggling for years with all these comorbidities like anxiety, depression, social anxiety, and stuff like that. And now I've realized like all this, like we have it harder sometimes, like you guys were saying. But how do you manage the frustration of that sometimes? Because sometimes you just think, yeah, it's a bit harder. That's okay. But sometimes, like, for instance, today I woke up with no energy. I was like, I have this webinar, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I wanted to get some lunch. I wasn't able to cook myself anything, so I just instant noodles once again. And I don't have the energy, and it's so frustrating at times, and you just get tired. Like, why is it harder for me than for most people? And they don't get it. It's like, why can't you just throw something in the pot and you just cook for yourself? It's so easy.
Joy.
I know Caroline wants to say something, but
No, I'm all about you, Joy.
So I never push medication on anybody, but I will say that people that are unmedicated and managing ADHD symptoms, it's exhausting. You go home and it takes everything, every single effort and everything you have to stay on track when you're at work, when you're at school, when you're really need to do that when you come home, you check out. That's it. You're done. So be gentle with yourself. I think that's a very, medication may be something to consider if you're not medicated, because I think that people that go on medication and benefit from it, they sleep better. Their days off are better because they feel more accomplished. They could put things in perspective better because it's not this, everything is just so overwhelming, and getting coaching and, working with a counselor. I think it's just be gentle with yourself. So if all you eat is noodles today, who cares? That's all right.
I think you're doing great.
That's all right.
And I think Caroline said something really powerful earlier. It's easier said than done, but we can't allow ourselves to feel a certain way based on what either other people say or we think other people think about us.
Right.
So as long as you can be happy and find a way to love yourself, that's what's most important is if you can be happy.
Yeah.
And connecting in this world, we get you, we get it, right?
Yeah,
I think that's important too, is because it really just helps you like, oh my gosh.
It's not just me.
Learning from each other. And
Caroline, what were you going to say?
No, I just think it's important to sometimes, like, I get really mad sometimes. I get really, really frustrated that, like, shit's just harder. And allowing myself to be mad, not at myself, like, I'm not mad at it's my brain, like, but I just get pissed. And it feels so good to be like, this is ridiculous. I can't. And to, like, allowing yourself to feel mad, but not at yourself. That's actually been a really freeing experience for me as, like, a person to just, like, But
Michael dropped a really nice quote in here. Stuart Smalley once said, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of what I've been also struggling is that if they say like, okay, ADHD can't have good grades, so everybody that has good grades with ADHD, like, okay, so maybe we're, I don't know, smarter than some neurotypicals, and you're just not valuing it. So it's also like, it's really frustrating. And yeah, right now I'm trying to get the right medication doses because my doctor messed up. We had an online assessment and the camera was pretty bad, and I was wearing this huge jacket, so apparently he thought I was a bit bigger, and he didn't realize I'm actually pretty skinny, so the dosage was huge, and I struggled for a month with being overstimulated, and I was like running around, like, okay, I got emails, and everything, and even a coworker said like, okay, you might even look like a bit maniac, because it was a lot. And I even emailed him like, okay, doc, I'm having this and this problem. Should I lower the dose? And he never replied until the next appointment. And he barely even believed me until I told him like, okay, the anxiety was so bad that 2 days ago I had a panic attack. And he's like, yeah, you might be right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I want to kill him.
Feel the anger.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're in a safe space here, and
yeah, thank you for that.
It totally makes sense why you're frustrated. I'm going to see if there's any. I feel like there might have been one more. Let's see. No, I think we pretty much got everybody. But I want to. Okay, Lacey. This will be the last one. So, Javier, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And Lacey to fish us out here. And while she's coming to the stage, I just want to say thank you again, both to Joy and Caroline, for both of you and your time and your knowledge and being willing to work with me and everybody here to add everything that you have.
Thanks for inviting us. This has been fun.
I feel so excited to be able to give information and help.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Good day. Rest of the day.
I know. I totally agree. All right, so where did Lacey go? All right, here we go. Lacey, bringing you up, girl. Here we go. There.
Sorry. Thank you for making time.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Just me? Or
okay.
What? Okay, there we go. Lacey, we see you.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wondered, this has been amazingly so helpful. I've learned so much. I'm not yet diagnosed, but I do see a nurse practitioner, psychiatrist whom I love for anxiety and depression, postpartum depression. I have twins who are 6, and still postpartum depression, I guess. It's just one thing after another. And I was wondering, with medication, are there certain medications that are normally prescribed for things like anxiety and depression that can help with ADHD that we might see a benefit from?
Wellbutrin, bupropion, I think it's called that in most countries. It has an indication for all 3.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
I'm on Prozac now, which is new, and I am really benefiting from it. And I do think I've seen improvement with some of my ADHD things, but
well, sure, just helping with anxiety, right? And
really.
Anxiety can override everything.
Absolutely, especially pandemic parenting. So,
and twins. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, they're a lot of fun.
I'm not sure if you did it on purpose, but the fact that the adorable picture is
I know.
I really didn't. I'm hiding from them right now, so I'm in my bedroom. But I'm like, that's.
How old are they?
They just turned 6, so they're in kindergarten this year.
So great.
Yeah,
well,
that's awesome.
As a coach, as I mentioned, kind of on that one slide about support, acknowledgement and affirming I just want to tell you, like, you have two beautiful daughters there that they are really lucky to have you as a mom.
Thanks.
And it's not easy to be a parent. It's not easy to be a parent, especially of twins.
Yes.
It's not easy to be a parent when you have anxiety and depression. It's not easy when you have ADHD. And a global pandemic.
Yes.
So I just want to affirm you in the sense that you're doing an awesome job already, and that you're giving yourself some time to explore these resources and ask these hard questions. It's going to get you further along.
Absolutely. I'm finally on that stage of like self-care for mom.
Oh, good.
No matter what. So, yay.
It's like when I showed the picture of that bridge, like you're seeing where you want to go, and now it's just a matter of taking the steps. So this is
absolutely.
So cool.
Yeah. Yay.
What a great one to end on. That was great.
Thanks.
So thanks, Lacey. And just for those who are left, thanks so much again for your time. And what I pledge to do is work with my support systems to follow up with all of you early to middle of next week. So we'll send over some resources for you, some ideas, questions, and we want to know what else you want to hear about. And please help to spread the word, because I think we can have hundreds of people in these, and I know it's making a difference. Even just the people that were here, it was so valuable. So thanks again to everyone for your time. If you have more questions, I know some of you are typing questions. We'll follow up with you because I want to respect Caroline and Joy's time because we have gone long. So thanks again, and have a great rest of the weekend.
Yeah, so I'll make sure my email is there. So I know there's some medication questions, and we'll follow up with you.
Sounds
If
good.
anyone needs anything, please let me know.
Cool. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye.